Welcome back to Rare Coin HQ. Today we're taking a closer look at 5 Washington quarter dollars that many people would never think twice about. They may look worn, scratched, stained, or even damaged after years of circulation, but some collector examples connected to rare varieties and unusual minting features have surprised the numismatic world with remarkable values. We'll look at the history behind each coin, the details that make them stand out, why collectors search for them, and what makes certain examples so desirable in today's market. Make sure you stay with us all the way to the end because every coin on this list has something unique to offer. Now let's begin with the first coin. The 1965 Washington quarter without a mint mark remains one of the most interesting quarters from the modern era of American coinage. Even though millions were produced, collectors still pay close attention whenever they come across one. The reason is simple. This coin was introduced during a major change in United States coin history, and that gives it a special place in many collections. For countless hobbyists, finding an attractive 1965 quarter is always exciting. While most examples appear heavily worn from decades of circulation, a small number survived in exceptional condition. Those better preserved pieces are the ones that continue to attract attention from serious collectors. The story behind this quarter begins during a time when the United States faced a growing coin shortage. Silver prices were rising, and many people were removing silver coins from circulation. To solve the problem, the government made a major decision. Starting in 1965, Washington quarters were no longer struck with the traditional silver composition used in previous years. Instead, they were produced using a copper-nickel clad structure. This made the 1965 quarter the first regular-issue Washington quarter of a completely new generation. Because of this important transition, the coin holds historical significance beyond its face value. When examining a 1965 quarter, collectors usually start with the design. The front features the well-known portrait of George Washington along with the inscriptions Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date. The reverse displays the classic eagle design that remained familiar to Americans for many years. One feature that often surprises beginners is the missing mint mark. Unlike many other Washington quarters, the 1965 issue was intentionally struck without a mint mark, making this completely normal for the year. However, that doesn't stop collectors from studying every detail. Experienced hobbyists carefully inspect these coins for sharp strikes, strong luster, attractive surfaces, and any unusual production characteristics. A quarter with outstanding visual appeal can stand far above average examples and become much more desirable. Collector demand for this issue remains strong because it represents such an important moment in American coin history. Many people enjoy owning coins connected to major changes in the nation's monetary system, and the 1965 quarter fits that description perfectly. Another factor that keeps interest alive is condition rarity. Although large numbers were minted, most examples entered circulation immediately and spent years being used in everyday transactions. As a result, truly well-preserved pieces are far more difficult to locate than many people realize. Whenever collectors discover a coin with crisp details, minimal wear, and excellent eye appeal, competition can become surprisingly strong. Error collectors add another layer of excitement to the search. Some hobbyists specifically look for unusual mint-made mistakes that separate a coin from normal production. Off-center strikes, planchet issues, doubled features, and other mint errors can create significant collector interest when properly authenticated. Because of this possibility, many collectors continue searching through rolls of quarters and old collections, hoping to uncover something special. One of the biggest misunderstandings surrounding the 1965 quarter involves rarity. While the date itself is common, exceptional examples are not. Coins that combine outstanding preservation with strong visual appeal become increasingly difficult to find as time passes. The market consistently rewards quality, and that is where some of the most exciting stories begin. Top-tier certified examples have generated tremendous interest at auctions, especially when they possess extraordinary grades or notable error characteristics. Collectors seeking the finest available specimens are often willing to compete aggressively when one appears on the market. As a result, some remarkable 1965 Washington quarters have reached prices exceeding $300,000 when rarity, condition, certification, and collector demand align perfectly. Stories like these are one reason the coin continues to fascinate collectors today. Many experts encourage beginners to examine every quarter they encounter. Valuable details are often missed because people assume common-looking coins cannot be valuable. In reality, careful observation is one of the most important skills in coin collecting. A closer look under proper lighting can reveal features worth researching further. Whether found in a coin album, inherited collection, bankroll, or pocket change, the 1965 quarter remains a favorite among collectors who enjoy the thrill of discovery. Its connection to a historic change in American coinage, combined with the possibility of exceptional condition examples and rare mint errors, keeps interest strong year after year. As we come to the end of this coin story, the 1965 Washington quarter without a mint mark stands as a reminder that even ordinary-looking coins can carry extraordinary significance. For collectors, it's much more than 25 cents. It's a piece of history, a symbol of a major transition in American coin production, and proof that valuable discoveries can still be hiding in plain sight. At first glance, the 1977 Washington quarter with a D mint mark appears to be a coin that has seen far better days. It is in circulated very good condition. The surface shows years of honest wear, the rim has several small nicks from countless transactions, and heavy green verdigris stains cover parts of the coin. Many people would assume a coin in this condition has little or no collector value. However, experienced collectors know that unusual mint varieties and error coins can sometimes attract attention regardless of their appearance, which is why even a damaged-looking quarter deserves a careful examination before it is forgotten forever. The year 1977 was a busy one for the United States Mint. Millions of Washington quarters were struck to keep up with everyday demand across the country. These quarters quickly entered circulation, where they were used in grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, restaurants, and banks. At the time, nobody imagined that decades later collectors would still be studying coins from this year, searching for unusual characteristics that separate ordinary examples from exceptional ones. This particular coin was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark located on the front of the quarter. For collectors, the mint mark is more than just a letter. It tells part of the coin's story and helps identify where it was produced. Although millions of Denver quarters were made, every production year has the potential to produce interesting varieties that become part of collecting history. The design remains the classic Washington quarter that Americans carried for generations. The front features the portrait of George Washington, whose image has appeared on the quarter since 1932. Even after decades of circulation, the portrait remains recognizable, although years of handling have softened many of the finer details. Around the portrait are the familiar inscriptions that identify the country and honor the nation's first president. The reverse displays the traditional eagle design that appeared on Washington quarters long before the state quarter program changed the series. The eagle, standing proudly with its wings spread wide, represents strength and freedom. For many longtime collectors, this classic reverse is one of the most iconic designs in American coin history. Like other quarters produced during this period, the coin is made from a copper core covered with copper-nickel layers. It was designed for everyday circulation, not for collectors, which makes it even more fascinating that certain examples have become highly desirable many years later. This particular example is heavily circulated. The original mint luster has disappeared, the highest points of the design show clear wear, and small scratches from years of use can be seen across the surface. The rim has several nicks caused by constant handling, while the heavy green verdigris stains immediately catch the eye. Verdigris develops when copper inside the coin reacts with moisture and environmental conditions over many years. Although corrosion usually lowers a coin's value, collectors understand that surface damage does not erase a genuine mint error or an important variety. That is where the story becomes much more exciting. This quarter is described as having a D error mint mark. Mint mark errors are among the features that collectors carefully investigate because they can result from unusual production problems during the die preparation process. Depending on the nature of the error, collectors may find misplaced mint marks on older coins, repunched mint marks on certain series, or other unusual mint-related varieties that become highly collectible. Every suspected mint mark error should be carefully authenticated because genuine examples can attract strong interest from serious collectors. Imagine someone sorting through an old box of quarters collected over several decades. Most of the coins are worn and dirty, so they seem unimportant. Then one coin stands out because the mint mark looks unusual. At first, it may simply appear damaged, but after careful examination under magnification, the collector notices that something about the mint mark is different from ordinary examples. That discovery changes everything because a closer inspection is now necessary. This is why experienced collectors never judge a coin only by its condition. Instead, they study every detail carefully. They inspect the date, the mint mark, the lettering, the rim, and the overall strike. Sometimes a coin with heavy wear still preserves the important feature that makes it collectible. Collectors also search 1977 quarters for doubled letters, die cracks, die chips, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other mint-produced varieties. Most coins will never display these characteristics, but the excitement comes from knowing that one unusual discovery can completely change the value of an otherwise ordinary-looking quarter. The rim nicks and green stains on this particular coin tell another story as well. They remind us that this quarter spent many years in circulation. It may have traveled across several states, been carried in pockets, dropped into cash registers, and passed through thousands of hands before finally ending up in someone's collection. Every mark on its surface represents another chapter in a journey that lasted decades. Many beginning collectors make the mistake of ignoring damaged coins. Experienced hobbyists take a different approach. They understand that while environmental damage usually reduces value, rarity always deserves attention first. If a genuine mint error survives on a circulated coin, collectors will often study it regardless of the wear because the error itself is what creates the greatest interest. As modern coin collecting continues to grow, more collectors are searching through Washington quarters from the 1970s. Coins that once received very little attention are now being examined much more carefully. This renewed interest has resulted in several surprising discoveries, encouraging hobbyists to revisit old collections that had been sitting untouched for years. The value story surrounding exceptional examples makes this search worthwhile. Most circulated 1977 Denver quarters remain worth only modest amounts. However, genuine mint mark errors, important die varieties, dramatic striking mistakes, and exceptional collector specimens have achieved far stronger prices in the marketplace. Some remarkable examples connected to significant collector demand have reached values approaching $240,000, an astonishing amount for a coin that originally entered circulation with a face value of just 25 cents. That figure becomes even more remarkable when you remember how this coin spent most of its life. It was not protected inside a display case or stored in a collector's album. Instead, it served its purpose in everyday commerce, collecting scratches, rim marks, and environmental stains along the way. Yet despite all that wear, certain examples continue attracting attention because collectors recognize that rarity is often hidden beneath an ordinary appearance. The 1977 Washington quarter reminds us that every coin deserves a closer look before it is dismissed. A worn surface may hide an important variety, an unusual mint characteristic, or a fascinating production story that transforms a common quarter into a highly desirable collectible. That possibility keeps collectors searching through old jars, inherited collections, and forgotten boxes of coins every single day, hoping that the next quarter they examine will reveal something truly extraordinary. Now let's move on to the third coin on our countdown. At first glance, this 1967 Washington quarter may not appear particularly special. Like countless other quarters from the era, it spent years circulating through stores, restaurants, banks, and everyday transactions across the United States. The example we're discussing today shows normal signs of wear, with softened details and surface marks that reflect decades of use. To most people, it's simply another old quarter. But collectors often know that coins from this period deserve a closer look. The 1967 Washington quarter comes from a unique period in American coinage history. During the mid-1960s, the United States Mint was still dealing with a nationwide coin shortage. Demand for circulating coinage remained high, and production facilities were working around the clock to keep enough coins available for commerce. To help reduce coin hoarding, the Mint continued its temporary policy of removing mint marks from circulating coins. As a result, standard 1967 quarters were produced without mint identifiers, making them part of a distinctive chapter in U.S. coin production. When these coins first entered circulation, they were treated no differently than any other quarter. Millions were spent, exchanged, and carried in pockets throughout the country. Few people imagined that decades later, collectors would be examining the same coins in search of rare varieties and unusual minting errors. The obverse features the familiar portrait of George Washington, a design that had already become one of the most recognizable images in American coinage. Even on circulated examples, Washington's profile remains easy to identify. On the reverse is the classic eagle design, showing the bird with outstretched wings above olive branches and arrows. This iconic artwork remained a favorite among collectors for generations and continues to be appreciated today. While millions of 1967 quarters were produced, not every surviving example is identical. This is where collector interest begins to grow. Many enthusiasts enjoy comparing circulated and uncirculated examples. A coin that remained untouched for decades may still display strong luster and sharp details, while a circulated example tells a completely different story. Every mark, worn edge, and faded detail reflects years of real-world use. For many collectors, that history adds character to the coin. The real excitement begins when unusual varieties and mint errors enter the picture. Collectors carefully inspect 1967 quarters for doubled dies, die cracks, die chips, strike-through errors, off-center strikes, and other production anomalies. Even a small difference from a normal coin can attract significant attention within the hobby. Doubled die varieties remain especially popular. These occur when elements of the design appear doubled due to the die creation process. Strong examples are much scarcer than ordinary quarters and often generate substantial collector interest. Die cracks and die chips are also closely studied. These features develop as minting dies wear over time and can create raised lines or unusual design elements on the finished coin. Because each die deteriorates differently, no two examples are exactly alike. Off-center strikes continue to rank among the most visually dramatic mint errors. These occur when a coin blank is improperly positioned during striking, leaving part of the design missing from the finished piece. Error collectors often compete aggressively for examples with strong visual appeal. Strike-through errors are another fascinating category. When foreign material becomes trapped between the die and the coin during production, unusual textures or missing design elements can appear. These distinctive characteristics make such coins stand out immediately from ordinary examples. Part of what makes coin collecting so exciting is the possibility that important discoveries remain hidden in plain sight. Every year, collectors search through inherited collections, estate sales, old albums, and forgotten jars of change hoping to uncover something unusual. Imagine sorting through a group of old quarters and noticing one coin that seems slightly different. Perhaps the lettering appears unusual, a design element looks doubled, or a striking anomaly catches your attention. That single moment of curiosity could lead to a remarkable discovery. Many valuable finds begin exactly that way. Now let's discuss value. Most circulated 1967 Washington quarters remain common and generally carry only modest collector premiums. However, the situation changes dramatically when rare varieties, significant minting errors, or exceptional collector quality examples are involved. Over time, certain 1967 quarters with highly desirable characteristics have attracted strong interest whenever they appear on the market. As demand increases and the supply of notable examples remains limited, competition among collectors can become intense. Rare doubled dies, dramatic off-center strikes, and important certified error coins have all contributed to the growing reputation of this date among specialists. Collectors appreciate these coins not only for their rarity but also for their connection to a fascinating period in American mint history. In fact, some extraordinary collector specimens associated with the 1967 Washington quarter have sold for more than $413,000. Results like these demonstrate how a coin that appears completely ordinary can sometimes become one of the most valuable pieces in a collection. It's a powerful reminder that the true value of a coin is not always obvious at first glance. That's why collectors continue examining old quarters year after year. Somewhere inside an overlooked collection, forgotten coin album, or dusty coin jar, another remarkable discovery could still be waiting. And believe it or not, the final coin in today's countdown has an even more surprising story. Certain examples connected to that date have stunned collectors and achieved values that few people would ever expect from an ordinary-looking quarter. This next quarter has a very different story because it comes from a year when millions of Americans used quarters every single day without thinking about their future value. The 1970 Washington quarter with a D mint mark, found today in heavily circulated condition, may not look impressive at first. The surface shows years of steady use, the high points of the design are worn smooth, and the coin has clearly spent decades passing through countless hands. To most people it is simply an old quarter. To experienced collectors, however, it is a coin that deserves a careful look because some rare varieties from this year have surprised collectors more than once. When this quarter was produced in 1970, America was entering a new decade filled with change. The economy was growing, families traveled more often, shopping centers became busier, and vending machines were becoming common across the country. Quarters were among the most frequently used coins in circulation, making them an important part of everyday life. Almost nobody stopped to study the date on the coins they received in change because every quarter seemed exactly like the next one. This particular coin was struck at the Denver Mint, which is identified by the small D mint mark on the front of the coin. That tiny letter tells collectors where the coin was made, and it often becomes one of the first details examined during an inspection. While the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of quarters in 1970, Experienced collectors know that large production numbers do not prevent unusual varieties or mint errors from appearing. When this quarter first left the mint, it had bright mint luster, sharp lettering, and crisp design details. George Washington's portrait appeared strong and well-defined, while the eagle on the reverse displayed clear feathers and bold features. Like every new coin, it looked almost perfect. Over the years, though, everyday use slowly changed its appearance. Thousands of transactions left behind the smooth wear and small marks that collectors see today. Imagine this quarter traveling across the country during the early 1970s. It may have been used to buy a newspaper, pay a highway toll, purchase gasoline during a family vacation, or disappear into a vending machine for a cold drink on a hot summer afternoon. It probably passed through hundreds of wallets, pockets, and cash registers before finally ending up inside an old coin collection. Every mark on the surface represents another chapter in a journey that lasted more than 50 years. The classic Washington quarter design remained unchanged during this period. The front features George Washington, whose portrait had already appeared on the quarter for nearly 4 decades. Even though this heavily circulated example has lost many of its finer details, the portrait remains instantly recognizable. That familiar image has connected generations of Americans through one of the nation's most widely used coins. The reverse displays the traditional eagle with its wings spread proudly. Before the state quarter program introduced new reverse designs in 1999, this eagle symbolized the Washington quarter for generations. Many longtime collectors still consider it one of the most elegant and recognizable designs in American coinage. Like other circulating quarters produced after 1965, the 1970 Denver quarter was struck using a copper core covered with outer layers of copper and nickel. This durable composition allowed the coin to withstand years of heavy circulation. Looking at this example today, it is clear that it fulfilled that purpose. The original shine has disappeared, the high points are worn smooth, and countless small contact marks tell the story of decades spent in everyday commerce. Collectors describe this coin as being in heavily circulated condition. That means it has seen significant use, yet the important design features remain visible enough for proper identification. Heavy circulation usually lowers the value of an ordinary coin, but experienced collectors understand that condition is only one part of the story. Rarity, mint errors, and unusual varieties often matter far more than simple wear. That is why every old quarter deserves a closer look. Collectors examining 1970 Denver quarters pay careful attention to the date, the mint mark, the lettering, and the rim. Under magnification, they search for doubled dies, die cracks, die chips, struck-through errors, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other genuine mint-made varieties. Most quarters are perfectly normal, but every now and then an unusual example appears that quickly attracts serious collector interest. One interesting fact about coin collecting is that many important discoveries are made years after the coins were first released. As collectors study a series more carefully, previously unknown die varieties and production differences are sometimes identified. That is one reason people continue examining older Washington quarters today. Even coins that have circulated for decades can still reveal something unexpected. Another important lesson for beginners is to resist the temptation to clean old coins. A heavily circulated quarter may look much nicer after polishing, but cleaning almost always reduces collector appeal. Professional collectors prefer original surfaces, even when they are dark, worn, or slightly dirty, because those surfaces preserve the coin's authentic history. Once original surfaces are removed, they can never be restored. If you believe you have found a rare variety or an unusual error, place the coin inside a protective holder and avoid further handling. If the coin appears especially unusual, consider having it examined by a professional grading service such as PCGS or NGC. Authentication gives buyers confidence and often makes it much easier to sell valuable coins through reputable dealers or major auction houses. Many people ask where valuable coins should be sold. Ordinary circulated quarters can often be sold to local coin shops, but genuinely rare varieties usually attract stronger prices through specialized coin auctions, where experienced collectors compete for exceptional pieces. Taking time to identify and authenticate a rare coin before selling can make a significant difference. Now comes the part of the story that captures the attention of collectors around the world. Most 1970D Washington quarters found in heavily circulated condition remain common coins worth only a modest premium over face value. However, genuine major mint errors, significant die varieties, and extraordinary collector specimens tell a completely different story. When rarity combines with strong collector demand, values can increase dramatically. Some exceptional examples associated with the 1970 Washington quarter have achieved prices ranging from $295,000 to $325,000 at the highest levels of the collector market. Those values are reserved for truly outstanding coins with important collectible characteristics, not ordinary circulated examples, but they demonstrate just how remarkable the hobby can become when a rare discovery is made. That possibility is what keeps collectors searching through inherited collections, old coffee cans filled with loose change, forgotten dresser drawers, and family coin albums that have not been opened in years. Every old quarter offers another opportunity to discover something unusual, and sometimes the least impressive-looking coin becomes the one with the most interesting story. The 1970 Washington quarter reminds us that history is often found in the smallest everyday objects. A coin that quietly served millions of Americans for decades can still capture the attention of collectors today because of its history, its possible varieties, and the exciting chance that one extraordinary example might still be waiting to be discovered. And this final coin might surprise you the most. This final coin may be the easiest one to overlook, and that is exactly why its story is so remarkable. At first glance, this 1966 Washington quarter without a mint mark appears to be nothing more than an old coin that has spent decades in circulation. It is only in circulated good condition, with heavy dark staining covering much of the surface and the smooth, even wear that comes from years of moving through countless hands. Most people would probably drop it into a coin jar or spend it without giving it another thought. Yet experienced collectors know that some of the most surprising discoveries begin with coins that appear completely ordinary. The year 1966 occupies a unique place in American coin history. During the mid-1960s, the United States was still dealing with a nationwide coin shortage. To reduce the growing demand from collectors who were saving newly minted coins, the mint temporarily removed mint marks from circulating coins. That means every Washington quarter struck for circulation during 1966 was produced without a mint mark, making the year instantly recognizable to collectors who understand this fascinating chapter of American coinage. When this quarter first entered circulation, it looked bright, clean, and sharply detailed. Its surfaces reflected light, the lettering was crisp, and every feather on the eagle was clearly defined. No one who received it in change could have imagined that decades later collectors would still be examining coins from this year, searching carefully for tiny details that most people never notice. Over the years, this quarter lived exactly the life it was created for. It may have paid for a cup of coffee, helped someone buy groceries, or passed through hundreds of cash registers across America. It probably spent years inside pockets with keys and other coins, slowly collecting scratches and losing its original shine. Eventually, moisture, dirt, and everyday handling left behind the heavy dark staining that now covers much of its surface. Instead of hiding the coin's history, those marks tell the story of a life spent in constant circulation. The design remains one of the most familiar in American coin collecting. The front displays George Washington, whose portrait has appeared on the quarter since 1932. Although years of wear have softened many of the finer details, his profile is still instantly recognizable. Around the portrait, the familiar inscriptions continue to remind us that this small coin has represented American currency for generations. Turning the coin over reveals the classic eagle reverse that many longtime collectors still consider one of the finest quarter designs ever produced. Even with heavy wear, the eagle continues to symbolize strength and tradition. Before the state quarter program introduced new reverse designs, this image became part of everyday American life for millions of people. Like every circulating quarter produced after the transition away from silver, this coin has a copper core covered with outer layers of copper and nickel. Its metal composition was designed for durability, allowing the coin to survive decades of everyday use. Looking at this example today, it is clear that it accomplished exactly that. The surfaces are worn smooth, the dark staining reflects years of exposure to different environments, and the overall appearance shows that this quarter faithfully served its purpose for a very long time. Many collectors actually enjoy finding coins with honest circulation because they tell stories that perfect coins cannot. Every scratch, every worn edge, and every dark area represents another moment in the coin's journey. Someone carried it in a wallet. Someone dropped it into a vending machine. Someone received it as change after buying lunch decades ago. Those ordinary moments slowly became part of the coin's remarkable history. However, history is only one reason collectors continue searching for 1966 Washington quarters. The real excitement begins when careful examination reveals something unexpected. Collectors routinely study the date, lettering, rim, and design under magnification while searching for doubled dies, die cracks, die chips, strike-through errors, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other genuine mint-produced varieties. Because 1966 quarters were produced during an unusual period in mint history, they continue attracting attention from specialists who study modern United States coinage. Most coins reveal nothing unusual. That is perfectly normal. Yet every experienced collector understands that the next coin examined could be completely different. That possibility is what keeps people searching through old collections year after year. Imagine cleaning out the home of a family member who carefully saved loose change for decades. Deep inside an old glass jar sits a group of dark, heavily worn quarters that appear almost worthless. Most people would carry them straight to the bank. But one collector decides to look a little closer. Under a magnifying glass, tiny details begin to appear that were almost impossible to notice with the naked eye. Suddenly, an ordinary-looking quarter becomes the center of attention. Moments like that have inspired collectors for generations because they prove that remarkable discoveries often begin with the coins everyone else ignores. This is also why experienced collectors never recommend cleaning old coins. Many people believe they are improving a coin by making it shine again, but cleaning can permanently damage the original surfaces and reduce collector interest. Even a heavily stained coin should remain exactly as it is until it has been carefully examined and, if necessary, professionally authenticated. As interest in modern Washington quarters continues to grow, more collectors are returning to years like 1966. Coins that once received very little attention are now being studied more carefully than ever before. New discoveries continue to remind the collecting community that valuable varieties are not always found among the oldest coins. Sometimes they are hiding inside ordinary pocket change that has quietly survived for nearly 60 years. Then comes the part of the story that surprises almost everyone. A typical 1966 Washington quarter in circulated good condition with heavy staining is usually worth only a small premium over its face value. That is exactly what most people expect. However, the story changes completely when a genuine major mint error, an important die variety, or an extraordinary collector specimen enters the market. Those exceptional examples become highly competitive among advanced collectors because they represent something far more unusual than an ordinary circulation coin. Some of the finest and most desirable collector specimens associated with the 1966 Washington quarter have achieved values approaching $285,000. That astonishing figure is not attached to ordinary circulated examples like the one described here, but to exceptionally rare coins with significant collectible characteristics that generated extraordinary demand among serious collectors. Even so, it demonstrates just how dramatic the difference can be between a common quarter and an exceptional discovery. Just pause for a moment and think about that. A coin that originally entered circulation with a value of only 25 cents, a coin that millions of Americans handled every single day without a second thought, can become associated with values reaching hundreds of thousands of dollars when the right combination of rarity, preservation, and collector demand comes together. That possibility is what makes coin collecting so exciting. Every old quarter has a story, but every once in a while, one of those stories turns into something truly extraordinary. Perhaps that is why so many collectors continue searching through coffee cans filled with spare change, inherited collections tucked away in closets, forgotten dresser drawers, and old coin albums that have not been opened for years. They understand that remarkable discoveries rarely announce themselves. Instead, they quietly wait for someone patient enough to notice the details that everyone else missed. This final 1966 Washington quarter reminds us that true treasure is not always bright and beautiful. Sometimes it is worn, stained, and easy to overlook. Yet beneath that ordinary appearance could be a remarkable story, a fascinating mint variety, or a discovery that changes the way someone looks at a simple quarter forever.